for the purpose of these demos. But what you can see is that I've got a VM running IGEL OS, and it's got a whole host of different shortcuts on the desktop. On the right-hand side of the screen, what you can see is my mobile phone. So that is my mobile phone that I'm scrolling through now, and hopefully we'll just check that, yes, I do have it on silent or do not disturb. So what I'd like to do is, first of all, is just run you through the left-hand side, familiarize yourself with the IGEL OS. You can see here I've got a start menu. This would be running on a MacBook or a Lenovo laptop, a Dell Thin client, any x86 64-bit environment, either off the hard disk or, remember, off that USB key. This has been configured by a central administrator using a management platform I'm going to show you in a second. We create policies, we deploy them out to users and devices, and we can change what this environment looks like. So at the moment, I've got a nice mustardy yellow wallpaper. You can see I've got access to date and time, Wi-Fi information. If I want to, I can quite easily go into Google Chrome. I could decide to go and launch, Office 365, read the news, or in this particular case, I could try and use the web browser to access a Citrix environment. So very similar to what John was showing in his slides earlier. The downside is, guess what, today, I don't know what my username is, and I've forgotten it. So there is one environment that I'm trying to connect to that requires username, password, and a token. Very standard stuff when you look at it without the Veridium solution, as John said. Likewise, in this particular case, I've got a connection. I've got the Citrix Workspace app, latest version included with the latest version of the IGEL OS. This supports HDX, it supports Teams offloading, for instance. As I try and connect to that environment, again, the connection's been set up. It knows where to connect to, but in this particular case, it's asking me for a username and a password, which, funnily enough, I do remember my password for this one, but we're going to pretend in this particular case that I don't, or that I don't want to have to put my username and password in to that type of environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the policy that is set on this device. So as I bring my management server over, this is an IGEL management server. I've got some profiles configured there. You can see I've got profiles that set up my Citrix connections, profiles that set up connections to Windows Virtual Desktop, etc. I'm literally just going to drag this machine here, which is my IGEL VM. It's green because it's online. I'm going to drag it from one group into another group. I'm going to drag it into the group called Veridium machines. And it's going to say, do you really want to move this device? I'm going to say yes. And that immediately means that I am now going to send a new policy down to that device. And if you see on the screen now, the user gets alerted. We could have done it at reboot. We decided to do it in real time. We've now just communicated from the management platform down to the device. Do I want to accept these new changes? Yes, I do. It's a new configuration. For the purpose of this demo, we're going to change the wallpaper from mustard to Veridium blue. And I've also changed my Veridium connection. And this time, what happens is I'm now just pointing at a different Citrix environment that has been configured with the Veridium solution. Now, from an IGEL point of view, and for any of you that are going through any form of Citrix upgrade, Citrix migration, if you're moving from one VDI vendor to another, if you're evaluating WVD, or you're moving from on-prem to Citrix Cloud as an example, the way in which I can reconfigure an endpoint that could be tens and thousands of miles away is incredibly powerful. By dragging and dropping that machine, I've literally just reconfigured that Citrix client to say, right, you were pointing at a server in Germany, you're now pointing at the Veridium server, which, John, I don't know, where's your particular Citrix server, do you know?
It's in AWS, actually. It's in AWS. So Munich, I think, is actually.
There we go. Who knows, right? So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to connect into the Citrix environment, and I'm going to get presented with a code. And very simply, I'm going to go into my phone. You can see me moving around my phone here. I am going to go into the Veridium app. Here I've got myself registered, so I've been enrolled as a user. That means that this phone, John, correct me where I go wrong here, but this phone and me are now enrolled. It's going to use something that I have. It's going to use also my authentication on the phone, aka my face. And all I've got to do is take my phone and choose to scan that code. So now what you can see my messy office, but you can see very quickly there, if I scan the code, look at the phone, I've now got authentication successful, and immediately that's communicated with the Citrix environment that was running in Munich on AWS, and it has now allowed me in. And in this particular case, we've configured the IGEL operating system to say, do you know what? Once you're authenticated, I want you to boot up into Windows 10 desktop. And now you can see that within the space of seconds, I'm now logged into that desktop. In fact, I'm that impressed with it, I may well do it again because it is that quickly. But the point being here is I haven't had to remember a username. I haven't had to remember a password. I very, very simply just used my phone to authenticate there. Likewise, you could do exactly the same type of thing with a standard RDP connection. So this time we're not using Citrix. Again, I can sort of come in. You can see me on my phone here. It's trying to scan the code. If I point it at the code, it will process that. And it wants my Face ID. It then takes my Face ID, and I'm then in, and I'm now running a virtual desktop using the RDP protocol as opposed to ICA with Citrix. Very, very simple. John, anything to add on anything that I've shown there? Hopefully I've done that justice.
Beautifully demonstrated. I'm going to take you everywhere with me from now on. The same video doing that job. Look, Simon. Look, I mean, you've shown 2 use cases there. Logging into kind of Citrix workspace, an RDP connection. This would work with VPN client. It would work with your Zoom client. It would work with your Teams client, your Office 365, your Skype for Business. It doesn't matter what the application is. It's that one consistent user experience for user authentication. We can also create a single sign-on type kind of scenario, as well. So thank you for a beautiful demonstration.